Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about?
You like it?
That intro, yes, Mikhail Barrington.
Right. Oh my goodness, she worked me out so good. I was like, listen. So she did my first one too, which was really kind of upbeat and jazzy. And then I was like, we need another one. We done had that one for a little while, but this one I wanted to be like grown folks.
Yes.
Yeah, she worked it right on out. I was
that
like, yes.
Joy Barrington will come through.
Yes. Absolutely. So welcome everybody. This is Kitchen Talk, CTC, Conversations That Cook. And we are in the kitchen. So you can see my kitchen and my guests are in their kitchen. I love it.
Yes.
And we also have my cousin here with me, the Charles Wesley Lattimore, who is in town for, it's a FAMU homecoming. So we're about to have the experience. Yes. It's right in the house. Yeah. And so my co-hosts are alumni as well. So
yes,
we just all here doing the thing. And so they are probably doing some homecoming stuff and just not gonna make it in tonight, but it's okay because you know what? We can hold it down. We got this.
That's
and we're gonna make it do what it do. So
as always.
Right. That's just what we do. So I want to introduce Marci Duncan. I met as a student of hers.
Yeah.
You was a student of hers?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But let me say, I was a non-traditional student of hers.
That's right. That's right.
I got a few years on her, but I did definitely respect her as the teacher. Okay. It was at that time, Miss Stringer. Yes, ma'am.
I wish I was in Marci's class.
Oh my goodness. He'd have got kicked out.
Absolutely not.
Would have definitely got kicked out. And so then we also have Kerry Sandell.
Kerry
Sandell with us, who I kind of met when they did this wonderful show for the FAMU Essential Theater this summer. It was amazing. I was in awe. And I even told Marci that night, I was like, look, y'all got to come to Kitchen Talk so we could talk about this.
Yes.
It was just so much. And so here's my guy right here, Fransley Moyes.
What's up?
Hello. Welcome to the kitchen.
Yes, thank you.
I see you got on your FAMU orange.
Oh, you already know. It's orange day. You know.
You ain't saying nothing, bro. You ain't saying nothing.
Speaking of essentials.
Right.
Essential theater, right? You got to have our essentials on.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, France is definitely a theater patron. Comes to see shows all the time. Charles is also a theater professional. Actor, singer, just all around great guy sometimes. Yes. But I'm the cousin, so I could say stuff like that. And it was crazy how we found out we were related. So we were both in Tennessee I call it Mayberry, but it was Cumberland County. And I was doing some work, and I had a picture of my grandmother up on my laptop. And he was like, "How you know her?" And I was like, that's my grandma. Yes, homecoming rattlers.
That's my sister. Hey, sis.
Hey, sister.
Latoya.
Hey,
Send
Kim.
Send Bub the link. He trying to get in.
It was. Thank you, Arana, for watching. It was definitely an
you.
awesome play.
Thank
So
you.
he was like, I was like, that's my grandma. What are you talking about? He was like, that's my cousin.
Wow.
Never knew.
Wow.
Never knew.
That's
Like,
amazing.
and we had kind of paths that, crossed over the years, but never knew until we got there.
I actually thought she was younger than me.
Oh, hey, that's that
I don't
beauty.
think you should be saying that though.
I know.
No, he's saying it because when we got to our accommodations, he wanted to leave. I wanted to leave too, but I couldn't. I was on internship. And he was like, no, I got to stay for this baby. FAMU done sent her out here. I got to stay for this baby. I got to stay for this baby. And I had a birthday while I was there. And it was my, 41st?
I don't know, but I just knew when I found out.
He was like, you what?
Right.
If I would have known, I would have left you.
You a
Homegrown.
I'm trying to take care of you like you a teenager.
Right. No, I'm gone. You good.
Jesus.
We've been bosom buddies
ever since.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking of that. Like, once you find out the age, was you gonna stay behind still, or were you just gonna leave?
If he'd have known, but by the time he found out, he was invested.
We were right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
too late. You
was
can't go
almost
back.
past
You
showtime.
can't go back.
Yeah, it was done. It was a done deal by then. So he had to stay. But he was like, I cannot believe that you are that old.
Oh my God, Charles. Oh my God.
I said,
I guess that's a compliment. I guess.
Right.
But she looked good. She looked real good. She still looks
Oh,
good.
see, now that's lovely.
She sure
All
does.
of you, like this page. Come on, this page.
Yeah. Yeah. We know, you know what? Folks, we know how to keep it together.
We keep it.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
We know how to keep it together.
And this is no drama.
No
Right.
drama. How you do it?
Well, drama for the stage, and that's it. That's
And that's
why
the only place.
drama. Drama
Absolutely.
for the stage.
Mhm.
So let's get into this wonderful play. So not only did Marci and Kerry act in the play, they were also the writer and collaborator. So
Oh.
Marci wrote the play and Kerry collaborated on the play. So
Oh.
and that's the part that really was like, oh my God, and I just wish everybody could have seen it. It's like you could feel Marci's story
Mhm.
while she is literally telling her story. I don't know if all parts of it was her story or infused with different stories, but you just also Marci is already a phenomenal actress, just
Aw.
bar none.
Pretty
Yes,
fire.
she is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bar
I
none.
appreciate
Well,
that.
we need to circle back because I really I'm intrigued by the writing process and how did that feel with both of you, sitting down to write out and think out that the play itself.
Kerry, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go first.
Sure.
It went in phases. The first phase was, "What's up, plumber? How you feel, bro?"
Just popped up, right?
Just popped up. So
And now he's frozen.
he wrote. He heard me. He heard me. So it's interesting that you asked that because the first phase of the process was kind of like just research and talking. Kerry and I talked a lot via Google Docs and Zoom. We talked a lot about the issues, about race. We talked a lot about what we didn't understand about each other, about, race. And we had some very candid conversations, and we felt that it was necessary to start by saying, listen, I'm going to mess up. You're going to mess up. I'm going to be ignorant. You're going to be ignorant. Let's just do this in love. Just know that we're both coming at it through love. And that's what we did. And then after that, I kind of just put everything I had on the page. I just put it on the page because I was just so inspired, And then the next phase was working through it with Kerry, and Kerry would judge that thing and go, that's not quite how I would say it. This is kind of how I would say that. Or, oh, you nailed it. My dad actually used to say that to me, tighten up. So I like that. And then it went through another phase where we met with my brother, James Webb, who is a playwright, and he helped us to tighten that script even more. He kept forcing us, tell the truth. You're skating around this. You're not necessarily saying how you really feel. Right. And because he really does know me, James knows me really well. And so he would call BS every single time. Every single time I would put something on that page that was not necessarily truthful, he would go, I hear you. I hear you. But go home and think about that. Go home and think about that. So the writing process, it took on several different phases. And by the end of it, we all had a part to play in tightening and making it so natural that people hardly believe that we actually wrote those words and put it on the page. Like what we say is actually on the page in the script. Kerry, it's literally legit what we wrote.
It is. It's interesting that you point out the process when we added James in and he started helping crystallize things. I hadn't thought about it when, I was there and I knew we were seeking truth, and that was kind of the whole point. But, that's really what the play is about, is not going there, not being fully honest, not being candid and vulnerable, and even how we self-edit so often. Where it's like, I don't know if I want to go there. I don't know if I want to say this. And then helping us, like you said, in love and in honesty, go there and really identify, okay, what are you really trying to say? That's not what the issue is. That's what you're hiding behind. Right. So that was just an important part of the process for a play like this. So I hadn't thought about it in that respect, that, from a playwriting standpoint, yes, we're seeking to be truthful, but that added layer of really what this play is about in the first place is, can we be candid? Can we be vulnerable? Can we really go there? And that was even present in our process.
It sure was.
One of my favorite shows, well, it became a good show for me. A favorite show is Breaking Bad. And, I love the show, but then they do like a deeper dive into the writing process. And I said, that's why I like the show, because they actually went in and digged in and tried to find the truth and tried to find the character in the writing. So you could see it on the stage, is because they actually did what you guys shared. You got intimate with the truth, and okay, this is what I would say. So I'm excited to see the show.
That Francie always jumps the gun.
He was Kerry. You had to know.
So just for audience viewers, I've seen the show, but we still have not called the name of the show or said you was about to say what the show was about. We just Francis like, let me see what I don't just jump right in. So, Marci, would you tell us the name of the show and then just give us a brief synopsis?
Yeah, sure. So the name of the show is called Dissonance. And if you're musically inclined, you kind of know what that means, or if not, really. It's called Dissonance. And the play asks the question, can two women of different races, a Black woman and a white woman, have a candid conversation about race? And also with the backdrop of you know, they've been friends for 20 years, but they've never actually had the conversation, right? They've been dancing around this thing for the entire friendship. And, you know, there's a lot to deal with and talk about in a friendship that you can actually do that. I've done it, right? I've done it. And so the play really does follow these women as they accidentally fall into this conversation because a surprise happens in the play. And when that surprise happens, we can no longer avoid it. We can no longer avoid it. And we try like hell, don't we, Kerry, not to actually have the conversation.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point where we both agree to the terms of engagement and we get into it. We do it. We do it. Which I don't think it's been done before.
Well.
I don't think it's ever been done.
Do we get
Go ahead, JT.
I was like, do we get to a certain point where somebody about to slap something? I'm just wondering. Do the claws come out at any point?
Listen. Everything, if a Black woman and a white woman are in the same room, at least this Black woman and this white woman, let's say that, Marci and Kerry, everything that I've ever wanted to say or ask or challenge is said in this play. Right? And I believe it's equal for Kerry, and I'll let her speak for herself, but there's no stone that is left unturned. We get into it. And you hear my side and you hear Kerry's side. You hear both of them because they both are valid. Right? Kerry, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I think that is only possible because of the series of circumstances that we created this under. You know, we were coming out of that summer of 2020 where there was all of this social unrest. And I approached Marci about, you know, my oldest son is the same age as Jamari, her oldest son. And I just was, during that time, as a white woman, it's like, I don't know what to say. I just know that Marci's having conversations with her son that are completely different than the conversations I'm having with my son.
Correct.
And when my son gets in the car to go back to college, I don't worry about him driving while being white.
Right.
And I think and so I said, I think with everything that's going on, I think there's a conversation to be had because she was just on my heart and on my mind so much during this time. And we really weren't that intimate. We were acquaintances and friends, you know, but not, you know, didn't have an intimacy or deep love or friendship for one another at this point, but she was just on my heart and on my mind. And so I approached her and I said, I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. And I think it needs to be a play. And because during that time, everything in the media was so divisive, everything was, you know, just hate and anger. And, you know, there wasn't a voice that was unifying or even trying to listen to a different side of the conversation. And so we started this process, like Marci said, writing on Google Doc and just having conversations on Zoom because everything was locked down because of COVID.
Right.
And in an odd way, that provided such a freedom because we could just sit down and have that time to really think about things. And we'd post on a Google Doc going back and forth. What was your first experience with race and awareness of race? What was, you know, what do you think about this? What's your opinion on interracial dating? Or, you know, and so we just sussed out all these things in a way that created this safe space because like she said, we came at it initially saying, you know, let's do this in love. The whole point of this conversation is for unification and for love and understanding. And so, like she said, I'm going to screw up. You're going to screw up. I'm going to say something stupid and not even know it. And, you know, forgive me ahead of time, but let's go there. Let's explore it, knowing that anything that's said is not done so with malice.
Right.
And because of that process of everything being locked down and us having that time, either digitally by Zoom or particularly the Google document, because we would just sit down and, oh, I had a thought, and type it out or put it on our phone on the Google Doc. Things that maybe we wouldn't have felt 100% comfortable in person broaching was free and open and safe. So that process helped so much.
You could take your time to answer. So it wasn't like it was like, she asked me, what's your opinion on racial dating, or interracial dating? And immediately I have to respond. So I could think about that thing, let that thing resonate a little bit.
Right. Sit in the pot.
Hey, let me think about how I'm going to put this out there.
Right.
Because one of the things that has never happened to me, never, is a white woman coming to me to say, I want to have a conversation with you about this. I know you're having a hard time. I want to understand it. That has never happened to me before. That has never happened to me before. And it hit me so hard, y'all. It hit me so hard deep on the inside that Kerry had the courage, or whatever it is, to come to me and say, I want to understand. I know that you're having conversations with your son. I need to understand what those conversations are, right? That has never happened to me before. And that alone was like a trust factor to me. It's like immediate.
Yeah.
You know?
I like the question that was asked by Miss Davis.
Yeah, that's my
terms of, I want to know, did it get heated in real life during the process? And I think you kind of answered that. You didn't have a chance to get heated because it was done on a different platform.
Yeah.
So now you can actually have the conversations without feeling weird or feeling some type of way. Is that correct?
I will say this: we did not have any moments where we blew up at one another. We didn't have that. You know, I'm 44 years old. You know, but what happened was, for me, is there were moments when I felt that I was still reserving myself from being fully seen. There were those moments, and it was difficult for me to just let myself be all of my Black self and be free to know that Kerry is going to accept me regardless. Now, that was a struggle for me, as I am, because I was so used to and putting on in the presence of people who were not the same race as me, right? And that was history, you know, trauma and all kind of other stuff to make you put on those airs.
Right.
And it was in those moments of rehearsal when James really did challenge us to keep telling the truth in each other's presence, because at this time we were working the script on its feet. So it was different. It had a different hit to it, because I would be saying those words directly to Kerry, seeing Kerry's face, and Kerry can attest, every single time I said them, I would just be so emotional.
What you said?
So emotional.
What you said?
Look at him trying to get a sneak peek of the
Right.
Well, you know what? I was going to ask that because JT kind of said the same. And give us a little sneak peek. You know, during the writing process, you weren't face to face. In the studio, you are. So in real life, when we're having these conversations, it does get heated. So was there a real? Did the claws come out? Was there
no?
But it's still
you.
But it's still at this point, it's scripted though, right?
Yeah, it's scripted. Yeah,
So,
because by the time we were face to face, we were scripted.
Yeah.
So we were going off of the script. Now, inside of the play, the way that it's scripted, the claws do come out. Come out
in the play,
right?
In
the way
play.
that it's scripted
in the
So
play.
we've never had a moment where me, Marci, and Kerry Sandell were like, you know, yelling and screaming at each other.
No, and that makes sense.
We never had that.
Have that real talk so that it can be real on the stage.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened.
There was a lot of conversation where it's like, help me understand this. I don't even know, like, I can't think of anything specific, but you would say something and it's like, that never would have occurred to me. I don't understand the weight that that word is meaning to you, because that's not what that word means to me, or why is that having that impact? So because we had all this groundwork built up, we could kind of say, oh, wait a minute, that's not a thing. That's not a thing, you know. Why do you think that's a thing in the white community? I'll let you tell the story if you want. There's one thing that came up and we're like, what?
What is it? You talking about the washcloth?
Yes. I carry trauma because of this now. So.
No. So we said because our director, he's an African-American man, right? And so sometimes we would just make sure that Kerry felt comfortable at every round. We're like, look, we getting ready to go to FAMU, okay? I'm about to tell you what's going to happen at FAMU. You know, our people, they like to talk. Okay, they're going to be in that studio. They're going to be talking back to you. So we like to keep her
interactive
up
theater.
on, our inside jokes that you would have with a person of the same race. So we just included Kerry right on in there. We say, okay, this is what this means. So one day we were talking, I don't know what the heck brought this up, but I was like, I think I saw something on TikTok and I was like, you know what, Kerry, do white people use washcloths? And she was like, what the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? Of course we use washcloths. I'm like, Kerry, listen, all of my white friends, they don't use washcloths.
That is insane to me. I feel like I need to represent.
They just use the soap.
Y'all just use the soap.
No. Let me dispel the rumor. We use
Kerry said,
Kerry, I'm gonna have to back you up. Not all Black people use washcloths either. So I gotta back you up now. It goes both ways.
Not make it into the play, but
You
just
don't know you use washcloths.
such a silly little cultural thing.
Thing. Right.
And we talk about that. And I think that for me as part of the process was such an interesting thing because there's a point where Marci's character talks about you don't speak a different language. And we touch on code switching and then we touch on culture.
Yeah.
And what a significant thing that is. And if you don't acknowledge somebody's culture, you're not acknowledging them and who they are.
Correct.
And I think often as a white community, because we don't have that identity, maybe because of minority, because of history, you know, whatever it is that you know, shared trauma, whatever, has a sense of identity with culture that I don't really necessarily have. And so being able to see, and I think maybe that's part of the conversation that a lot of people miss, being able to see and appreciate and respect culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my character makes a comment about, look, we all share the same culture. We're all American, you know, and it's missing that whole piece of her identity and that whole piece of what the conversation is as well.
I think when you're able to tap into those deeper conversations, right? Those real conversations, then you can tap into those those other conversations. But we're not going to even go there.
If you're brave enough to do it, I think.
Correct.
And or if you are, two things. One, if you feel like you can kind of keep yourself together in order to have the kind of nice, calm, rational, you know, conversation that we're gonna, like Marci said, let's talk about it in love and try to get an understanding of each other. If you know you're not one of those people, then you might not need to have that conversation.
I agree.
You know what?
World War IV might break out. I don't know.
I agree.
That's a good point. Because our show is attached to a talk back. And we have a talk back after the show because, you know, people just want to talk. But one of the things that the show really makes a point to kind of make clear is that you really shouldn't just be having these conversations all willy-nilly, really.
Right.
You should not just be having these conversations all willy-nilly. At least that's our opinion. One of the things that the show communicates is that it's best to have a conversation such as this with a person that you're in relationship with, right? A person that you're in relationship with, that you have some type of understanding with, so that you can give grace and receive grace, right? Because Kerry gives me grace and I give her grace, right? I take a minute and I say, okay, all right, this is what it means to read the room. Okay. This is what it feels like to go into a space and you're the only one there, right? Always the only one there, right?
Mhm.
And so then she listens. She listens to me. And she may not understand it 100, but she listens and she honors what the hell I just said. You know what I'm saying? And if you have a conversation with somebody who you're not in relationship with, I don't know if that same kind of grace will be provided like that.
It won't be. If you think back to the old school talk shows in the 80s with Oprah or Donahue or something like that.
They get a little heated. Yeah.
They get very heated. And, you know, these people don't really know each other, so they just go at each other. But I still think that the conversation should be had either way. I think you get more results from the conversation when the person is with somebody that you have a relationship with. The other ones, we have those, and yeah, okay, I see your point of view. The relationship says, okay, here's what we do afterwards, which is what I was gonna ask later on. Lisa, what you got to say?
just before you get to that. So you did talk about, but at the same time, you and Kerry do not have a 20-year relationship, right?
No.
So would that, and I guess I'm thinking, would that have made the conversation easier or harder?
Well, I think because we had a relationship, it wasn't necessarily the relationship that we wrote about. We kind of fast forwarded our relationship throughout this process, right? Because I knew Kerry, and I was her teacher as well. So
taught everybody.
Yes, I taught everybody up on here. So except for you know. So I was her teacher. So we had a mutual understanding with one another. We had a mutual respect. And I'm telling you, the way that Kerry stepped to me and was just like, I want to have this conversation with you. Guys, that earned mad respect from me.
Yeah.
And immediately a portion of my guards came down. I wasn't suspicious. I wasn't scared. I wasn't anything. As a matter of fact, as soon as Kerry said that to me, after the show, she came to see me in a show and she said this to me after a show. Immediately after I went home, I immediately started writing.
That's beautiful.
But you know what? To add to you, I think that regardless of the length of the relationship, it would still be a hard conversation to have.
Absolutely.
20 years, 2 years. That it would still be a conversation that would be very interesting to watch on stage. So I got to go and see the show.
Oh, you've got to see it. And we, you know, I mean, you do. Marci touched on it. It is a difficult conversation, especially because they've danced around this elephant in the room for so many years. And she tries and she tries and she tries to swallow it, to change, you know, put on a happy face. And I'm not going to deal with what she just said to me. And she, you know, all these, whether it's a microaggression or whatever is happening, she tries so hard not to have this conversation until she can't not have the conversation anymore.
Not have it. Yeah.
So it is. And I think that's what we all do. It's like, it's not worth it, or, you know, I don't want to go there or whatever. And so then you've got, you know, this piece of our relationship with these huge missing chunks.
Yeah.
And
well, you know,
so,
funny,
I mean, you're absolutely right.
I think it happens not just in conversations with the opposite race, but even within the same race, right? Yeah. Even within the same couples having the same type of dance where, you know, we have to address this particular issue, but we don't address it. Black on black crime, big conversation that needs to be had. Black economics, big conversation needs to be had. But we kind of dance around it instead of saying, okay, let's have a real talk and do it with grace and mercy, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a key component.
Well,
and at the end of the day,
I commend both of you women for having that conversation and this being real. I also want to know, what personally have you all learned from each other that then y'all can use to educate your sides?
Well, I'm so happy that you asked that. I'm happy that you asked that because a lot of
Chicken seasoning.
Chicken seasoning. Chicken. So great. Okay, so a lot of, to answer your question, Charles, from my perspective, is a lot of real is in this play.
Okay.
Right? A lot of things that Marci J. Duncan had to work through as it relation to being friends with a white woman were worked out in this play. A lot of real moments, real questions that I had to work through, real issues that I really had an issue with. I worked through them in this play with Kerry and James. So some of these scenarios that are in this play come from a very real place, which is why this play is so emotional for both of us to present, because it comes from a very real place. It is real and it is raw. So much so, Charles, when I first brought it to FAMU, this was our first production of it, my body went nuts. My body went nuts. I had pain in my shoulders. My back was acting up because I was holding on to this for so long.
Right.
And it was finally going to be out. It was finally going to be out and said out loud, the real way that I feel, the real questions that I have, the real prejudice that I possess, the real is going to be out there for everybody to hear. And Charles, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do. Well, one of the hardest things I ever had to do, because it was so personal to me. But how will you know that you're not alone if you don't tell it? If you don't tell it and tell it like it is. And people, the response, I mean, Kerry and I, from when we took it to Pensacola too, which is a totally different audience, people
completely,
they were in tears. They were like, how did you see me? How? And I'm like, I didn't know they would connect to it like that. Kerry?
And I think it was profound for me. It was a fantastic experience going from that FAMU audience to then in Pensacola, where it was a predominantly white audience, and hearing from people that had long 40, 50-year opinions about things coming up to us and saying, I need to rethink some things. And I need to take a moment. I want to talk about this later, but I need to go because I'm seeing something for the first time in a different way.
Right.
And so when you asked, what was it that I learned? I think kind of what I touched on before, that appreciation and honoring of culture is a big thing that I think gets missed, and is a big thing that that I'm more aware of now. And then just the simple things like Marci said, having to read a room, just the awareness that on a day-to-day basis, your experience of your daily activities could be totally different, and I'm oblivious to it. And so being willing to see from your side of the diamond, see the different facets of what your experience is from your perspective versus what mine is. And mine is not invalid, nor is yours, but I'm not seeing what you're seeing. And so that pausing and being open to seeing something from someone else's perspective is huge as well.
I think it's like a great thing if you could have the conversation with someone, because sometimes we have it with our Black girlfriends.
That's another thing.
Those things,
Like,
we run it down with each other. But at the same time, it's like, well, how is that kind of helping us when we don't know the other side of? We can only speculate. Like when somebody said when y'all were talking about the washcloth thing or no washcloth, it was like that's what we saw on TV. So we always talk about the programming and stereotyping Black people, but it's programming stereotyping white people too.
Correct.
So we never look at it like that.
Correct.
You know,
Definitely.
we wrote about that in the play as well. And I want to send a shout out to my homegirl, Emac. She's in the building watching on YouTube. But we wrote a section where I use my homegirls for real. And I wrote a section in there, and I'm like, you know, Kerry is like, why don't you ever invite me with you and your homegirls? You know, I invite you to with me and my homegirls, and you chill out with us all the time. Why can't I ever go and hang out with y'all?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Nope.
no.
You ain't ready.
You would be uncomfortable. That's what I say.
I'm not invited to the picnic.
Right.
I'm not invited to the
wasn't
barbecue.
invited. But you know, that's a conversation. And that came out of some dialogue that Kerry shared with me as well about one of her friends saying, you know what? I always invite my Black friends to things, but they never invite me. And I was like, dang, that's true. That's true. And that hits to what you said, Lisa. You know, it hits to what you said about, you know, we get together and we talk about the injustice and all this stuff to each other, but we never really talk about it with the people who are directly involved, you know?
And that was going to be my question in terms of, does the paradigm shift actually happen? Right? So we can have the talk all the time, but then what happens afterwards? What impact happens? And, you know, we'll do it with our friends all the time, have that talk. And, you know, we don't want too many other people in there because we want to be our authentic selves.
Right.
So they miss out on hearing what we really want them to hear to make that change actually happen. So, you know, I don't want to give away the show too much, but in terms of your real life experience, you know, what was did the paradigm shift actually happen? Was there like a, whoa, okay, aha, and this is what I'm going to do different? You know what?
You're not going to get the ending of the play, friends. You're not going to get it.
No.
I
will say this. I will say this, though. I will say this.
Are you
when I tried to have,
to come to the party?
Yeah. When I will say this, though, when I have tried to have this conversation with other relationships that were opposite race of me, with other white women, it did not go well. It did not go well. And we talk about that in the play as well. You know, I flat out tell Kerry's character, I say, hey, I've been down this road before and it didn't end well. So I'm not doing it. But one of the choices that Kerry's character makes in this play, hey, just like that verse in the Bible, she's like, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you walk out of this room. We're going to do this. You are my friend and we having this conversation. We doing it. She buckled up, which is the difference. Yeah. Because it wasn't like that in my other relationships. They were like, what the hell with you too? I'm like, what the hell with you do? Right? This chick said, I'm buckling down. Right. I can take it. You can't scare me away.
Right.
And it's what you said. It's, you know, you bring up a good point about authenticity. And we talk about that. It's like, you have not shown me your authentic self. Yes. And that's the issue. It's not that I'm not seeing you. I don't know what I'm seeing because you're hiding it from me. And so we talk about that. And then in one of the talkbacks, somebody asked us, can Kerry see your authentic? Are you able to be your authentic self with Kerry now?
Right.
You know, and I think as much as we can throughout the process, and that will be an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for in terms of like I'm changing my behavior, changing the way I see you, and saying, hey, you know what? Lisa and I are getting together for drinks. We want you to come on over with us. Does that make sense?
Hey, guess who went to see Woman King with your girl?
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
So good. So good.
You see what I'm saying?
I called her up. I was like, hey, you want to go see Woman King? She was like, yes.
That's when you know that a change, the paradigm shift has actually taken place. Because we can have these conversations all day, right? Whether it's 10 years, 30-year relationships, or I'm meeting you for the first time. If nothing actually happens, even if it's a small, minute thing, then we're just talking to talk, right?
Right.
Mr. Moist, my husband, Andrew Davis, football coach, says, oh, that's my guy.
But you know, in the play,
world.
we don't tie it up with a nice little bow in the
We
play
don't.
because that's not
We
how
don't.
life is, right?
It's not
It
like
is an
that.
ongoing
Correct.
process.
Yes.
It's an ongoing
And like
process,
you said, that willingness to change the behavior
yeah.
Yes.
and to change
But-
what you're doing and the way you're thinking,
Mhm.
that is the process. That's not a flip a switch.
Correct. Correct.
a
JT, you about to say something?
So Kerry, when y'all do go out to have, are you order some Hennessy or are you gonna order?
Okay, now
She don't
cut
drink,
out
man.
the audio cut out, so I don't even know what I missed.
What's your choice? Hennessy or what? What's her choice? Hennessy or what?
Red wine.
Or
That's my dog.
you got some Hennessy, you got some spot, you got.
Don't worry.
What
I'm
do
a
you
juice
normally
person
drink?
myself. So.
Yeah, this one don't drink at all.
What you care?
Yes.
At all. But I want to circle back too to something that Marci said about when you were talking about is change happening. Yes, change is happening, but she was saying some of those habits are like really hard to break.
Yes. My dog
They
said,
are really-
Did y'all catch that? I catch that. Hey, give me a coat. That girl, we go back to high school, middle school.
Oh
Erica,
wow.
yes, we were friends in middle school, and we are still friends to this day.
I
Wow.
love it. I love it. I have those long-term friendships as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this conversation really lends into that, right? Like, okay, that's my circle of trust right there.
Yeah.
That's my people right there, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to bring you
Yeah.
in because you might
I
not.
don't want you to get jumped on. I
You
always
gonna
say
bring
the
me
wrong
tonight and
thing,
you talking
baby.
about red wine? I don't know.
But it's such a conversation that's so needed just across all kinds of lines. If we could all just kind of sit down, and I just imagine what kind of world this would be if we were able to sit down and really have these conversations and not just have them, but want to have them. Like Kerry came to you and said, hey, genuinely want to, not for any type of gain or anything like that. Just genuinely wanting to be in a better place, wanting to be a better person, wanting to be a better friend, wanting to be, the word we're using now is ally, that sort of thing. And I think it would be great. I think too that because when I was in Seattle, which is one of the whitest cities in the United States, and again, being the only Black almost everywhere that I'm going to school, but I'm the only Black in the classroom or this or that or the other. And you tiptoe around some of the conversation, but I think we're also intelligent enough to know, I know it was not you that had me in slavery and it was not me in slavery.
Exactly.
So how is it so hard? What I couldn't understand was sometimes, how is it so hard for us to even have the conversation? Because none of us were there.
Well, but it didn't end there, though.
Have the conversation
It didn't end there. That's true because the
right.
It's still ongoing.
Right. It's
Residue.
ongoing.
Residue.
But if I'm willing and you're willing, it's like, where's the willingness to have the conversation?
I don't think
to
it's
help
just
us move
willingness.
past? I think that was the tough part.
I think it's you guys said it earlier, it's courage.
Yeah.
It's not just the willingness, because I think sometimes there is a will there, but then there's the courage to say, okay, you know what? I'm, like you said earlier, I'm not gonna leave until we have this talk. And that takes courage. I could be, I want to have this talk. I really want to get down and get deep. But if I don't have the courage to stay in it when it gets heated, when it gets ugly, then
oh, that's my son.
Hey.
I will say this, for me, for Angela's character, Angela had a problem with trust. She did not trust white women because of the history with white women. And she did not trust white women completely. So she was not willing to have the conversation because she was afraid that if they really went there, their friendship would not recover.
right.
And so she would rather, dance around it, play nice, so that she could keep the relationship intact. Because she was afraid that if she really said how she really felt, if she really told the truth, if she really said, you know what, I don't really like that you asked this white woman what we should do, for our business, because that's one of the things Kerry did. She went to this other friend of hers, this other lady, and asked her for advice about what we should do about a business that we're opening together. So instead of telling her the truth with that, she lets it slide. She throws her little shade here and there because she's not willing to really go there and be vulnerable with Kerry because she feels like the relationship won't recover. And Kerry's character dispels that by saying, I'm locked in. I'm locked in.
But you say that, I'm sorry. You say it'd be great if we could all have this conversation, or if this conversation was had. And I think that is the beauty of theater in an avenue like this, because people are willing to sit back and listen and put themselves in those shoes. And it's a safe way to engage in that, and a safe way to kind of try something on for size that might, in the real world, they might not be willing to do, or might not be brave enough to do. And so as more people see this show, and as we continue to get this response of just openness, and that's been so humbling, is we haven't had anybody come up and say, I cannot believe that. I don't agree with what you say. Everybody from all walks of life, all generations have come and said, this was a beautiful conversation, and you really made me think.
Kerry,
and so the conversation can be had.
Yeah. I was just thinking that because, again, NIMS Middle School. So I used to work at NIMS Middle School, and I said, this is a great conversation to have on a collegiate level or, a professional level. But what if it was had on a middle school level, elementary school level, where these conversations start to build into their character as they develop? Now I have the courage to have that conversation. I have the willingness to have that conversation because we started it so young, right?
That's interesting.
True, but at the same time, kids don't really, they don't come with that.
No, that's why I said with middle school.
It comes later. You need to have it with the parents.
And that's why I said that. You're right. Yeah. On an elementary school level, it's not really there.
Yeah.
But once they start to develop the habits of their parents.
Right. That's who you need to have a conversation with, is the parents.
And their peers. It could even be in a classroom with their teacher, right? Yeah. We have teachers who work together for years, side by side, but they would never have that conversation.
Yeah.
So you see, it's like, if that conversation is had earlier, would that change the mindset in the process of another generation moving forward?
I think that's interesting, because my mom, who's a white woman in her 70s, said the same thing to me. She's like, I think this is something that if there was a way to adapt it for younger kids, I think younger generations seeing this would be so important. And she's, when I was having these conversations with Marci, I went to my mom and was like, okay, you remember having integration. You remember having labeled water fountains and labeled pools. You were there and you watched this. So what do you think about this? And that was one of the things. And she'll still will be talking about something, and she hasn't seen it for a couple months, and she'll still say, I was thinking. But that was one of the things she raised too. She's like, with the young, if younger generation could see some of this stuff now. But I think you're right. I think middle school, but before that, it's too much because the maturity is just not there.
I agree with the maturity, but I also think of the mindset. I don't think younger kids look at race that way. It's like, this my friend, right? So one of my closest friends in elementary school was Michael McCormick. Shout out to Michael McCormick. That was my friend. I didn't see him as white, right? I just saw him as, that's my friend. When I see him, we play games, we go outside, but it starts to change. Now you start to take in some habits and some of that DNA that you probably don't really want, but it takes place.
It's taught.
It's taught. It is taught.
And it's funny because I shared, when we were in our process, I shared with Marci that was my first awareness of race. 4th grade, moved from Colorado to Central Florida in the early 80s. And some of the girls that, I knew school, didn't know anybody. Some of the girls started hanging out with me, sat with me at lunch, and, just, I didn't think anything about it other than, I know her, she's in my class, we sit together at lunch. And I don't remember now because it's been 120 years, but somebody said to me, and I don't remember if it was like 2 weeks, 2 months, what the time span was, but a white girl said to me, "You're never going to have friends if you keep hanging out with them," because they were Black. And that was like, because I had never had that paradigm. I hadn't been raised in Central Florida where there was a very distinct line at the time. This is Black town, this is white town. The Black kids sit here, the white kids sit there. I had never experienced that. So that, to me, when we were talking about race and talking about all these things that you don't talk about, was my first experience with that. Being aware that, is there something wrong with that? Am I doing something wrong? And so I think you're absolutely right. It's that we come at it from an innocence and an openness and an accepting that, as we get harder and have life experience and have wounds and things, that we start picking up these biases and these prejudices and these protective shells and all of these things that we add over the years that little ones don't necessarily have.
I can honestly,
hold on. JT.
No, I can honestly say, coming from elementary school all the way up to my 9th grade year, where I went to a predominantly Black high school before switching high schools, I noticed that, everybody's your friend. Y'all play together on the playground. There's no Black or white, none of that type of stuff. But there was a few kids that I remember by the time we got to 9th grade, man, you might as well have gotten them a sheet in the hood and gotten them ready to get on the back of a horse and going, "I'm sorry, Kerry, my bad." And
what that means.
And I was actually shocked. I was like, dude, your dad or people, you had sleepovers and all this type of stuff, but all of a sudden, you don't even like Black people? Like, it happened, but
yeah, it's very interesting. That's an interesting concept. Our show does come along, like I said, with a chat, and we do have a conversation after the show that our director moderates. As a matter of fact, we're going to take the show to the University of West Florida Martin Luther King weekend in Pensacola, Florida. And it's going to be a part of the day of service. They're going to go do their service in the early part of the day. Then they're going to come and see the show, and they're going to have a conversation.
Nice.
That's good. That's good.
So I'm trying to get clarity that the show is appropriate for middle school and high school.
Well, we would have to clean it up just a bit. There are a few jokes. It's not a lot, really. I mean, I do a little joke, about laying the pipe. We have to cut that out.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Let me tell you,
You're being
these kids these days, if they listening to a WAP.
Yeah.
If they listen to what they listen to, I'm talking about all ages now, then they
Yeah.
should be able to hear this. And I think that's another piece. Sometimes we try to shelter when we really should be saying, hey, this is the real deal. And that shelter sometimes hinder us from getting to the truth, right? It hinder us from getting to the authenticity that you were able to do on this show. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
Yay! We
Can't
are
wait for you to see it.
embarking upon a tour. So right now we are booking theaters. We want to do the South first. We want to do Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Carolina. That's what we're working on right now. And of course, the ultimate goal is Broadway. Of course, that's the goal. And I do believe we'll meet the goal. And also out of the country. We want to go out of the country as well and have the conversation. So, if you guys want to contribute to that mission, we have a GoFundMe.
Listen.
Holla at us in that GoFundMe. Holla at us.
That GoFundMe. That's that GoFundMe.
Thank you. That'll help us get the word out to book these theaters. Kerry, myself, and our brother James, we are producing this show on our own. We believe in this show. We believe in the mission of this show. And we know that this, as our brother James says, right, Kerry, he says, this is God's work.
We're doing God's work.
We're doing God's work. So
when are you going to be in Tallahassee?
Well, we did our Tallahassee show, but if y'all want us to come back, you tell us the theater that you want us to come to, man. Drop those theaters. Tell us the theater that you want us to come to. Tell us who we should talk to. And man, we will send our package like that. We got everything tight. It's ready. It's ready to go. You don't have to do anything but host us. And
man, I need to come back to the capital city. You need to come back. Which is interesting because the capital city is actually having these conversations, right? So they're having a conversation about race. So I think it's probably something that we need to circle back around to and say, okay, how do we not just do it at FAMU, but how do we connect that to the greater city? How do we connect that to the state? Because again, here we are, two schools, 2 universities, and there's literally a train track.
Carry that too. I showed her the train track.
Yeah.
Listen.
But even the train track is getting blurred these days.
Hello. Listen. Go to those theaters and say, we want this show. We want this show. Bring this show. Harass them. And we will come. We will come and do the show. We know that what we're doing is good, and it's ministering to a lot of people and hitting home to a lot of people. Yeah. So we want to come wherever you all want to bring us. Go to the theaters and bring us.
Besides the theaters, I know we're running out of time. I got to throw this plug in. When you leave the theater and you go to Netflix and you go to any other platform that would allow you to take it from the theater to the screen, is that something that you guys are thinking about?
Absolutely.
We've talked about that. We've talked about converting it to a screenplay, and I think it's very, very doable.
Absolutely.
But ain't nothing like that theater feel. Oh my God. You gotta be in the room with this one. You gotta be in the room with this one.
But it allows you to speak to the masses.
Absolutely.
When it's done the other way as well. Because again, Hulu, Netflix, I mean, once the word gets out, that's just a game changer.
Yeah, we have definitely talked about that. And as soon as we can get our tour up and running and get solidified, we will be coming back to the table to talk about converting the script into a screenplay. We've talked to Kerry's nephew. He's a wonderful videographer about, filming and doing some different things. So we've been talking about these things. So you all
follow us on social media, because we update as we have theater bookings, and we've got video, and we've got all kinds of things. So keep in touch with Dissonance the Play on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, Dissonance.
Yeah, let's put that up because I'm gonna follow you right now.
Yes, it's at Dissonance underscore the underscore play.
Okay.
And that's on Instagram and Facebook.
And send
Love it.
all of that to me, either text or email, Marci,
Sure.
and we'll
Sure.
put it up on our page as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, what would you all like people to walk away with?
That's a good question. I think from the play's perspective, two things. The first thing I want to say is that this play would not be in existence if Kerry had not followed the unction in her heart to come to me and ask me what she asked me, right? So the first thing I want to say is I want people to understand how important it is for us to listen to that voice when it speaks to you to do something, because you don't know, you have no idea what's connected to that and how many lives are connected to that. Kerry had no idea what this would become. Neither did I, but it would not have been necessary had she not listened to that voice. The second thing I'd like people to take away is when you decide to live a life that is led by love and your ego is displaced, you can do anything. You can do anything, but checking that ego is a consistent thing that we have to do. A daily, sometimes for me, sometimes it's on an hourly schedule. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Speak.
And I think for me, one of the things is that I think Latoya posted on the chat, love covers a multitude of sins, and being willing to engage in these conversations with love. We can change things. We can see each other genuinely and authentically.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take these mass grand movements to change the world. It takes intimacy in one another, and connection. And you can change the world with just being yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then the second thing I would say is go see the play, go push for the play in your community.
That's right.
Follow us. Let's be a part of this conversation, taking this conversation around the country.
Absolutely.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So listen, this has been Kitchen Talk CTC.
Conversations that could.
That is what they do. That is what they do. I am so appreciative of you, Marci and Kerry, for joining us tonight. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I would love for you guys to come back and chat with us some more. This is one of those, like our voting.
Yes.
This is one of those things that we just really need to keep on the forefront of people's minds and help opening that process of opening up minds and hearts to a better existence. I won't even say a better America, just to a better existence, And I honestly, I'm so hopeful. And sometimes I'm not as optimistic as Mr. Optimistic, Franklin Royce. But I'm so optimistic about we're gonna get there one day. And it's not and the lines are gonna be so blurred, all we're gonna see is love.
Yeah.
We'll see our differences, of course. I want you to recognize that I am a Black woman and a proud Black woman, but at the same time, that doesn't dim your light.
Right.
And knowing who you are doesn't dim my light. We just put our lights together for a brighter light.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's done through community.
Right. Right. So this has been wonderful.
Yay!
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Marci, I am writing a one-woman play that I'm going to give you because I want you to do it.
Oh,
I get finished.
I'm booked in busy. Am I booked in busy?
Yes. I'm telling you, as I get this, I'm like, oh my God, Marci got to do this for me.
I'll let you, girl.
But, I will. I will. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. Because your stuff was supposed to be okay. This about to be a family feud right here. So I'm gonna let y'all go and we gonna fight. So I don't know if anybody around these parts, but if you hear the ambulance, they coming to get him.
You women were
It's homecoming time.
I'm
Listen.
looking forward to seeing you guys play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
everybody who watched. Love
Thank y'all
y'all.
for
Yes,
showing
thank
up.
you all for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Listen, if you are watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, hit the like button. Make sure you turn on those notifications so you will not miss another show. It is Rattler Homecoming weekend, so we doing it. It's some Rattlers in the house. So thank y'all for taking out that homecoming activity schedule to join us tonight. I know, friends, I know. But we'll be right back here next week, next Thursday, 9:00, same place. And we're going to get into it again. As you know, the conversations cook in the kitchen. So that's what we do. That's what we do. So good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Good night.